Ancient African Kemetic spirituality. The Greeks worshipped her, known as the Herculaneum worship of the goddess Auset. These terms that we got, the Theotokos, the mother of God, that is coming from Auset. She is known as Mut Nechet. She is personified as Mother Nature. Now, when we go to France, as I said, the Romans took her to France. The question is, why does France have the Black Madonna in the Notre Dame? Because that Black Madonna was Auset at one time. As we see that conversion that took over when the Byzantine Romans came in, they took and changed her over, but in many places in Europe, her color remained still black. So she became the Black Madonna. But no one went back in the past history to see that that Black Madonna is Auset and the Holy Child Haru. So this is the history that we got to turn the pages of time here. There are those who may be Christians who say the Black Madonna, but they still take it and isolate it down with a Black Virgin of Mary and Jesus. But it goes back further than that. That Black Madonna, she's black because that is Auset. And a few days from now, you're going to go to the last temple that was closed here in Kemet, a temple that was dedicated to her. And that is the temple of Isis, as it's referred to by the Greeks and the Romans, that our ancestors called the temple of Auset. There you're going to see her where they try to chisel her out, lactating the Holy Child Haru. Why did Theodosius and Justinian in the 4th and 6th century AD, why did they shut these temples down? Because they were bringing on a Western version of Christianity. Not only was it a Western version of Christianity, but they were bringing on white idolatry, the worship of European images. And worst of all, they brainwashed people through the dogma of the religion as though this was real. So Kemet became feared. Why? Because here you have the reliefs and the evidence of ancient African Kemetic spirituality on these reliefs that you're going to see that was literally plagiarized. You're going to see, and I'm going to show you the relief where Auset is hiding in the papyrus swamps. Doesn't that sound like Moses and the bulrushes?
Yep.
There you know the story of Jesus who had to hide from Herod. I'm going to show you where Set had to hide her Holy Child Haru from Set. This is the prototype of where it all came from. So they did not want no one talking about the story of Kemet. That's when the Inquisition period, that's how it started. Anyone that said anything about Kemet was burned at the stake. If I was during the time of the Inquisition, they would burn me at the stake for talking about Kemet.
Wow.
But the opening of the European world, after the Greeks and Romans got all this knowledge, but when the church moved in, the church feared Kemet so much it shut down knowledge. And when it shut down knowledge, it put Europe in the so-called Black Ages, when in fact it was the White Ages. It shut them down. And this is where all knowledge, science, that came from Kemet was shut down. Until people like Galileo, Kepler, Copernicus, they started to study Kemet. They started to study the ancient Kemetic text. Here, the ancient Kemetic text was called the Hermetic text, related to Tahuti, because it was through Tahuti. Tahuti was a priesthood, and the symbol of Tahuti was a zoomorphic form of an ibis bird and an anthropomorphic figure of a human body. But that was not the image that they worshiped. That was a symbol of the priesthood, just like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is represented as an eagle, an ox, and so forth. But is that them? No, it's a symbol. So the ancient Kemetic text, that's what was feared. But as they brought this knowledge slowly into Europe, they started to open up the pages and found that the spirituality that made the religions came from here. And this is what slowly opened up Europe a second time. The first time started with the Greeks, starting with Thales, and then Pythagoras, and all the other Greek, Archimedes, all the other Greek philosophers, okay, Socrates, and all of them. Here, that's when Europe first opened up, but when they shut it down through Christianity, but it opened back up through, again, the studying of ancient Kemet. And this has been why they don't want a connection with African people with ancient Kemet. Because if you take a people and say that they were 3/5 of a human being, we never had history, and all we were was slaves, then that gives them validity to justify that slavery. But if you start to open up the ancient African history to see the fact that your whole world came from a black mind, that was developed from a black mind, developed from the black consciousness of thousands and thousands of years. And I'm saying that if we, as a people, truly want to go through the final emancipation, and that final emancipation is of our mind, not because Abraham Lincoln took and signed a document and then said you were free, and then we just went wandering around trying to figure out what it's all about. The final emancipation is that we must circumscribe our own circumference from what our ancestors laid down, not circumscribing our circumference to think within a diameter of our oppressors. And this has been the biggest fear. Kemet was the biggest fear yesterday with the Greeks and Justinian and Christianity, and it's the biggest fear today, African people studying ancient Kemet. Because the genetic memory bank will open up once you put knowledge for it. But as long as we're into white idolatry and worshiping white images as though these things are real, then we fall victim of the worst form of enslavement. It's worse than even shadow slavery. And what kind of slavery is that? Spiritual enslavement. When the enemy becomes the deity and the spiritual subconscious of our mind. And that is the biggest battle, and the final battle that we have to do is to break chains of worshiping something outside of ourselves and think that we're going to be free. So Kemet gives us the evidence, it gives us the proof. And that's the reason why they fear it, because they got people to believe in these things. But if you take and present something to the brain to make the brain think, then you can't believe in this stuff anymore. You start to believe in yourself. So you've taken the longest journey in your life, and that's the journey into yourself, to come back here. That's what this is going to open up. So when you see a set right here, here we see that beginning of that ancient spiritual story. That spiritual consciousness of immaculate conception, holy birth. Immaculate only means clean. That's what immaculate, that Auset only knew her husband Asar. Asar only knew Auset. That's what immaculate means. Clean. Virgin birth. These are stories that came out of African spiritual consciousness. No spirituality came out of Europe. No morality came out of Europe. They know that. They have no ancient history of morality. Only thing you got history of wars. All right? Yeah. Wars. One war after, even to this very day. Yes, since the day I've been born, all I know is America has been at war. Trying to take somebody's land, taking people's resources and so forth. But yes, like Wakanda, the colonizer. All right.